Welcome back, guys. We are here and ready for Dunk Dynasty episode 11, hosted and sponsored by our partner, SSN, otherwise known as Sideline Sports Network, and Autograph. If you have not downloaded the Autograph app, I highly recommend it. I have a link in my bio where you can sign up for that using the promo code. The Autograph app is an amazing app where you can learn all things from podcasts, articles, fan posts, member posts, to all of your favorite fan zones is what they're called. So if you're a Grand Canyon University fan, you can join the Grand Canyon University fan zone, and you can see all things related to Grand Canyon University. We have almost all of the D1 teams, all of the FBS football teams, and many of our professional sports teams as well. With that being said, we'll dive right in. Today we're talking about all things National Championship Week. It seems like a long time away, don't get me wrong. We're 90 days out from the start of basketball season. We're just over 200 days out from the Final Four. It seems like the Final Four was just yesterday. Maybe it was. I don't know. I don't care. I love ball. That's why I'm talking about college basketball in the middle of the summer. With that being said, let's dive right in. The 2024-2025 March Madness Final Four. Where is it at, you might ask? Some of you might know, some of you might not. So this year, 2024-2025, we're talking about the Final Four in San Antonio, hosted by UTSA and the University of Incarnate Word. Who are either of those teams? You probably don't know, because neither of those teams have ever been to the Final Four. Fun fact. With that being said, the Alamo Dome, which is in San Antonio, has hosted the Final Four men's 7 times. It's held over 4. Men's 7 times, women 4 times. Most recently, men's in 2018, women's in the COVID-stricken 2019-ish tournament, if you want to call it that. As far as the headlines, San Antonio, we had the Kentucky and Stanford game, overtime thriller. Wildcats won that game to head to the national championship. Utah upset top-ranked North Carolina in that other Final Four game, which saw a Kentucky-Utah Final Four matchup. National championship matchup, I guess. Basketball fans saw Vince Carter and Antoine Jamison on that Tar Heels roster. Kentucky dominated the Utes second half by almost 20 points, winning their second title in 3 seasons in that year. Prior to the 2004 San Antonio Final Four, the Department of Justice and Department of it's called like the Fan Zone, Chamber of Commerce, whatever, every city, every state calls it something different. The San Antonio Chamber of Commerce announced that this Final Four was going to produce them $45.7 million. That was in 2004. Prior to 2004, in 1998, was the first time that the Final Four was hosted in San Antonio. And of course, it has hosted several times since then. Like I said, 7 men's and 4 women's. Only 4 other cities can claim that they have held the D1 championship more than 5 times. So, some fun facts about San Antonio and some fun facts about where it is being held. The Alamo is also in San Antonio. If anyone's going to the Final Four this year, super jealous. I know it's, like I said, 200 and something days away, but if you're already planning, super jealous because I want to go. Maybe I'll be there, maybe I won't. Probably not, but one can hope. Maybe the podcast will blow up and I'll be there as a reporter. That would be cool. So diving into national title contenders. I see some people on the podcast watching. I really appreciate everyone watching. If you have any insights, if you want to give your hot take for your school, maybe it's not a hot take, maybe it's a cold take, I will put the link on my socials. As soon as I put the link on my socials, feel free to jump in. I will get to every single person that wants to talk their talk, that wants to walk their walk. And another thing, I highly recommend it. If you're talking the talk on the podcast, I have every single podcast episode saved. So it always happens every single year. You get to March, you tell your best friend, I told you this team was going to be in the Final Four in April. I told you this team was going to be in the Final Four last year in August, October, September, whatever it is, right? What do they always say? No, you never said that. No, you never did that. You never bet on them. You never did nothing, right? So I'm putting it out. If anyone wants to talk the talk, if anyone wants to walk the walk, now's your chance. So with that being said, I will dive into my national championship contenders. I got write-ups for all of the players, all of the teams that I think have the best chance at making it to San Antonio this year. Obviously, this is all dependent on the way that the tournament bracket is set up. Obviously, if Alabama and UConn are in the same side of the bracket, obviously, they're not going to be able to both be in the Final Four. Get real, guys. So with that being said, I'm going to start top to bottom. I'm going to go from the lowest odds or the best chance to win to the highest odds and the worst chance to quote unquote win. So we'll start, as much as I hate to say it, as annoying as it is, until they prove to me that they aren't a contender, the UConn Huskies will be near the top of my list. Right now, they're plus 1,000 or 10-1, matched with the best of the best. With that being said, I think there's a lot of things that need to go right in order for UConn to three-peat. They need a guy to replace Klingon and what he did for this team down the stretch last year. Will that guy be Samson Johnson, Hassan Diarra, maybe a rookie, Yusuf Sangari, Jalen Stewart? I don't think that any one of those guys individually are going to be able to replace what Klingon did for this team. However, if 3 or 4 of these guys can hold down the fort, I think it gives Caravan a chance to be that guy and replicate the other spots that they're missing. I think Liam McNeely needs to completely replace the minutes and points lost from Cam Spencer, which for what it's worth, I do think Liam McNeely can be better than Cam Spencer if he stays with Dan Hurley and the Huskies past his one-and-done season. Finally, I think that the Huskies are going to need a breakout season from transfer Aiden Mahaney from St. Mary's in order to cut down the nets. Another year like he had at St. Mary's, and the Huskies are going to be in a world of hurt coming down the stretch. I just don't think that they have enough firepower. And I was talking to someone on Twitter at Joey Cheesy. I was talking to him earlier. I would love to be proven wrong. I just don't think that there is any chance that this UConn team wins without Aiden Mahaney, Alex Caravan, and Liam McNeely going absolutely nutso. With that being said, we will jump to, I've been talking about them all summer, Alabama. Coming into the season, I will say I've been really, really high on this Nate Oates squad for the last 3 years. The only reason that I didn't have them in my Final Four last season was because they played against my alma mater, Bryce Drew, and the GCU Antelopes. Sorry, Nate Oates, I didn't believe in you. I thought Bryce Drew had a squad. He did have a squad. They got their first tournament win, 30-5 last season. I had a hope that GCU could win, and that's why I didn't have Alabama in my Final Four. Sorry, Nate Oates, I didn't believe in you. With that being said, I think that this year Oates has a very good shot at not only running away with the SEC late, but also before it's all said and done, I think Nate Oates will be a national championship winner. He will be cutting down the nets. Is there going to be a lot that's standing in their way? Absolutely. However, I think that this team has what it takes to get through all of that. We have a preseason nationally ranked Auburn. We have a preseason just outside the national rankings, Kentucky. And also, for some reason, Alabama always struggles with Florida, who returns an absolute god in the SEC of Walter Clayton. Can we stop playing with our food and just win basketball games, Alabama? If Alabama can win these games late in the season when they're playing a top 10 ranked Alabama in the jungle, when they're playing Kentucky in Lexington, if we can beat these teams, there is no one that's going to stop this Alabama squad. But in all seriousness, anytime that you're returning more than 50% of your scoring from a national championship or Final Four run, while also adding more talent, you're setting yourself up for success. I think that Nate Oates did a very, very good job recruiting this offseason. He went into the offseason after losing to UConn with the mindset that Mark Sears was not coming back. He made sure that Grant Nelson was coming back. He brought Clifford Omiuri from Rutgers. I think that tandem down low is going to be a force to be reckoned with in a very fast-paced SEC. Mark Sears returns. He takes another step forward after coming back from the draft, and I think he has a chip on his shoulder. He told everyone in Tuscaloosa, I'm coming back to win a national championship. He has a chip on his shoulder. Does he need to get better? Like I said, I watched him play against GCU when they played in Washington. God, no. That man is an absolute monster, and he can cook literally Monday through Sunday. So does he need to get better? No. Will he get better? Yes. And because he's going to get better, this team is going to have a chance to win a national championship. What I do have to say, though, is when Alabama, I'm not saying if, I'm saying when Alabama gets a favorable draw as a number 1 overall or a number 2 overall seed in the tournament this season, don't be surprised if they look like this last year's UConn team and beats everyone by 25 points en route to the national championship. Alabama, night in and night out, is going to put up 95 to 100 points a game. If you can put up 95 to 100 points a game, there's a very, very slim chance that anyone is beating you. And that's why I think Alabama has a chance to be a national championship contender. And they are at plus 1,300 the last time I looked, so 13-1. Next one we got Baylor. Night in and night out, this Baylor squad is going to have a team full of dogs that's going to compete for Scott Drew. In the Big 12 this season, it's going to be very, very hard to win on the road. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows it's hard every single year to win on the road. You have to go to Hilton. You have to go to the Fog. You have to go to Houston. You have to go to BYU. None of those places are easy places to win. With that being said, the good news is the Baylor Bears don't lose at home. Because they don't lose at home, It gives you a little bit of an opportunity to, if you don't want to slip up, but if you have to slip up and you go to the Frittata Center on a Thursday night and you lose to Houston by 3 points, it's not going to be the end of the world because you win at home. The Baylor Bears were 14-1 as favorites last season and 15-2 overall. Their only losses coming were both in-state foes. They lost to Houston in Waco, and they lost to TCU in Waco in a double overtime thriller where they lost by a 3-point ball with like 2 seconds left. In-state games always seem to come with this extra level of scrutiny, this extra level of nervousness, of hype and sensitivity. I think that this squad has what it takes, that if they can avoid some of those close losses in conference, they have a very, very good non-conference slate, or they should anyway. It hasn't been released yet, but with that being said, I don't really care how good the non-conference slate is. You can't really prepare for the grind of a Big 12 schedule. I'm not expecting Bryce Drew and the boys to win every single game, but if they can avoid those 2 or 3 game slides that they saw last year, they had 2 times when they lost 3 games in a row. If they can avoid those, I would be really optimistic to see Baylor still at 20-1 on the board to win the Natty. My 4th team that I really, really love, Iowa State. I'm very excited about TJ Otzelberger this season. And I just talked about Baylor. This is the 2nd team in the Big 12 that I'm writing about. Am I going to be shut down when Kansas runs away with the conference for what seems like the 10th time in 10 years? Probably. But when it comes to taking stabs early in the season, I hate to pick favorites. Like I said, the only reason that I picked UConn is because they're on a back-to-back Natty run. With that being said, I think TJ Otzelberger did a very great job over the last offseason of finding talent in the rough. And I think he did just that with the transfer portal this year. He brought in players from UNI, he brought in players from Charlotte, and he brought in players from Seattle U. Tell me another Big 12 coach that's going to these low major schools and finding diamonds in the rough. Tennessee. Rick Barnes did that with Dalton Connect. But there's not many Power 5 conferences that are going down to low major and mid-major schools and finding diamonds in the rough that can contribute night in and night out. So with that being said, Iowa State at plus 3,000. We talked about the grind of a Big 12 schedule. We talked about how hard it is going to be to win on the road in the Big 12. Iowa State, the Hilton Magic, they never lose. They can have the number 1 team for 55 weeks straight come into Hilton and somehow they manage to get it done. This Iowa State squad is not going to score 100 points a night like Alabama is, which is fine. I don't think they need to score 100 points a night like Alabama does to be successful. But I do think that there's a great opportunity for this Iowa State squad to develop and for this Iowa State squad to be better than they were last year. They have the transfer that I mentioned from Seattle, Brant Chatford. They have Milan Momlakovic, who's going to be really, really good this year. They have Tamian Lipsey, who's a hometown guy. He's going to be very good this year. You got to transfer Joshua Jefferson. He's going to be really, really good this year. I love this squad, and I love the fact that you can still get them at 30-1. If Brandon Chatfield from Seattle is good, this team is going to compete, and TJ Otzelberger will take this team to the top of the Big 12. And last, but certainly not least, we have Creighton. I have Creighton at plus 40-1 or plus 4,000. I would be absolutely remiss to not include this squad after I talked so highly about them and so ill about UConn in my Big East show a few weeks ago with Hunter from NKY Bracketology. I think that this squad has the chance to compete with anyone in the nation when it comes to college basketball this season. They have a top 5 big in the country in Ryan Kalkbrenner, who will be a serviceable tandem down low with Stephen Ashworth. They have a guard duo in Pop Isaacs and Jemiah Neal, who are going to be very, very good. If this squad can come in and deal with their business every single night in the Big East, they're going to be a tough out when they get into the tournament. I think that Ryan Kalkbrenner has a chance to be an All-American first-team player. I think that Ryan Kalkbrenner has a chance to be a National Player of the Year when it's all said and done. I'm very, very high on this Creighton squad. Creighton has put together arguably one of, if not the toughest, non-conference schedules this season. Alabama and Kansas are both coming to Omaha. They have Oregon, who's ranked in the top 25, Texas A&M, also ranked in the top 25, and San Diego State in a round-robin MTE over Thanksgiving. If I count that correctly, that is 4 or 5 top 25 games before they even hit conference play. Once they hit conference play, they'll see a very, very good Rutgers squad. They'll see a very, very good Xavier squad. And of course, they'll see a very, very good UConn squad at some point in the season, all of which, who, if they're not already, will be ranked in the top 25. All of that to be said, there is something to be said about teams playing tough non-conference schedules and setting themselves up for success. If you see a Big 12 team play a schedule like that, people would be hyped going into the Big 12 conference schedule. Now you're telling me that Creighton is playing in a top-heavy Big East with Xavier and UConn and then maybe Marquette in the top 4. You're telling me that this squad is setting themselves up for success and playing a very, very tough non-conference schedule, and you're not going to give them the benefit of the doubt? Count me out on that. So with that being said, Creighton is going to be very, very good. I think they are going to have a very, very likely draw this year when it comes to March Madness. And I would love to see Ryan Kalkbrenner in San Antonio. Count it out. Don't count it out now. When Ryan Kalkbrenner is in the Final Four, come back to this post, come back to this video, come back to this podcast, because I will be here to tell you I told you so. With that being said, thanks everyone for tuning in. I will be back next week, same time, same place. Thank you for tuning in.